All right, so this is our last, I'll say it this way. This is our last grade for the 4th marking period, okay? Because we are going to have another test. Some of you are, not everybody. By the way, let's talk about that. What do you call it? Final exam. You have to average an A for the 3rd and 4th marking period, all right? And I will tell you, I have to grade this quiz first before I definitively tell you if you're going to have to take the final or not, all right? So hopefully Wednesday, I should be able to tell you if you're going to take the final, all right? Everybody got that? All right. I will say this. I didn't tell the other class this. Well, since I didn't tell the other class, maybe I'll give you an extra day. We'll say this. Wednesday, even though the marking period goes till Friday, I got to know what the grades are in order to figure out if you're going to have take the final or not. So Wednesday is the last day you can turn anything, even a late homework in. Everybody understand that? So Thursday, Friday, you're like, "Whoa, Mr. Hamrick, I got this homework. It's been sitting in my folder and I didn't give it to you." Well, too bad. All right. Wednesday is the last day that you can turn in a homework in here. Got it? Okay. I haven't even looked. All right. Everybody ready to go now? All right. So I am looking at the homework. I am not going to give you a problem where I just say, find the sine of 37 degrees. Okay. I'm not going to give you those. Remember those first 6? Okay. I will not give you that. But you're going to have to know how to do that, though, to do the other problems. So I'm looking at 7, 8, 9, or 10, 11, 12. Anybody have a preference? I did 10, 11, and 12 in the other class. You want to do 7, 8, 9? All right, and then you can always go back and look at the one that they did. All right, so let's do that. Let's do 7, 8, and 9. These are all kind of similar, all right? You're just finding missing sides and missing angles. So they all kind of boil down to the same thing. Now, sometimes they tell you different things about the triangle, but it's kind of the same thing. So this is X, this is Y, and this is 20, and this is 17 degrees. All right, and it says you got to find all the missing lengths and angles, okay? So they call this angle E, F, and D. All right, here we go. You ready? What's the easiest thing to find? Angle E would probably be the easiest thing to find. Okay, now watch very carefully. A lot of you guys aren't looking up here. Everybody look up here. This is super easy to find angle E. One little step to find angle E. They give you one angle. Well, they give you two angles. They give you this as 90 degrees, and they give you this as 17 degrees. How do I find this missing angle? One little step. Say it again. That's right, 90 minus 17. That's it, okay? A lot of you guys want to go 180, and you could, but you got to go 180 minus 90, which is always going to be what? 90. So why not just start with 90 minus 17? Everybody see that? So what's that? 72? Is that right? 73, sorry, it's a 7. 73 degrees.
Thank you.
All right, so there's one. Look at that. Didn't need any trig, didn't have to do anything fancy, just take that away. All right, so that's 73 degrees. Now I got to solve for x and y. Now I'm going to need some trig to be able to solve for x and y. I can't do Pythagorean theorem. Why can I not do Pythagorean theorem here? That's right, I only got one side, okay? To do Pythagorean theorem, I got to know two of the sides, all right? So I can't do Pythagorean theorem, but I can do a trig function. Let's do x first. Let's use the 17. This is the number they gave us, all right? We could use the 73 if you wanted to. That's an exact answer. But let's just use the number they gave us, 17. So how do I know which trig function to use? That's the big question. I get that all the time when I teach this. How do I know whether I have to use the sine, the cosine, or the tangent? Well, look to see what you're trying to find and look to see what they give you, all right? So what are we trying to find first? X. And what side did they give you? The 20, right? So let's see. Are they opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse? Which one's which? Which is the x? This is adjacent, that's right. What is the 20? That's hypotenuse. Which trig function uses adjacent and hypotenuse? It's the cosine. Remember the so what? Ka, C-A-H, right? Toa. So the cosine is the one that we're going to use. Does that make sense? So look to see what you're trying to find, what they give me, and then I can figure out which trig function I use. This is adjacent, that's hypotenuse, so I use the cosine. Now, I could go opposite over adjacent, but I wouldn't be solving for x. What would I be solving for if I go opposite over opposite over hypotenuse? I would use the y, correct? What about tangent? Could I use tangent right now, this minute? I could not, because that's opposite over what? Adjacent. And I don't know either one of those, so I can't use the tangent. But I could use the cosine to solve for x, and I could use the sine to solve for y. Make sense? All right, so let's do the cosine. The cosine of what? What angle was I dealing with? This is adjacent to which angle? The 17, okay? So I'm taking the cosine of 17 degrees. Always take the cosine of an angle. Never take cosine of 20 or the cosine of y or anything like that, okay? It's the cosine of the angle is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So adjacent is x, hypotenuse is 20. The math is pretty simple. How do I get x by itself? That's it. Just get rid of the 20. Multiply both sides by 20. Just put the 20 right out in front. That cancels. So you just throw that into your calculator. So let's use a calculator and solve. So it's 20 times the cosine of 17. On a calculator like this, you just write it in exactly the ways. It's written right here. So you hit 20, then you hit cosine, hit 17. I like to close the parentheses, hit enter, and you get 19.1. It says round to the nearest tenth. So where do we look? We look to the right of the tenths value, which is a 2. Does the 2 round the 1 up? No. When would it round it up? If it was 5 or bigger, right. So if that 2 was a 5, then it would be 19.2. But it's not, all right? So you just keep it 19.1. So I got one of my sides right here. Now remember, this is an approximation. It's not exactly 19.1. It's 19.12609.512. And it actually keeps on going even further than that. That's just as far as the calculator tells me. So my approximation is a 19.1. I want to find y right now. All right? So we actually already talked about this. So I use this angle again. And so what is the y to this angle? Is it opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent? What is it? It's opposite. This is opposite 17. And they also give you the 20, which is the hypotenuse. So which one uses opposite and hypotenuse? That's the so, right? So, ka, toa, right? Which is the sine. So what do? The sine of 17 is equal to the opposite, which is y, over the hypotenuse, which is 20. So multiply both sides by 20 again. Well, not again. Yeah, we did. Multiply by 20 again. All right, and then y equals, then you just put this in. So let's see what that is. 20 times the sine of 17 equals 5.8. Again, that 4 does not round that 8 up, so it's just 5.8. What'd you say? You said 0.8? Well, I did read off all the answers earlier, so maybe that's how you got it. All right, there you go. And you got your 3 things. You just solved the triangle. You found all the missing parts. Now, what I would suggest that you do is go to the other classes' video and look at 10, 11, and 12, because the math is a little bit different, because the math on 10, 11, and 12, the variable is down underneath. So there's an extra algebra step you got to do. All right, I'm not going to do it here because we've got other things to do. But watch the video. Even if it's just that first problem, it's the very first problem that we did on the video from the first class. Okay, the algebra is a little different. This was a little easier. Okay, but you might have one on the quiz where the math is more like the one we did in the other class. All right, so that's a hint for you. You're going to study for it anyway. You might as well just take a couple extra minutes, watch the other class's video on that problem. Okay, let's see. Let's jump down to 16 to 20. Again, let's do one that's not the same. Actually, I want to do one that's like on the quiz. Let's do one where they give you one angle. No, these are problems. I said earlier, the problems that we're going over are like the ones on the quiz. All right? So this one, they just gave you an angle on a side. This one on the quiz, they just give you one side. Or no, they give you two sides and no angles. So let's find where they give you two sides and no angles. 20 maybe? You want to do that one? All right, I don't think we did that in the last class, so let's do that one. All right, so they make the right triangle look just a little bit different. They just kind of turn it around a little bit. So this is number 20 on the homework, okay? This is 26. This is 42. Yep. And they tell you this, that's a little q, that's my lowercase q. It's kind of weird looking. And this is O and P. All right, so here we go. We got to solve the triangle, okay? When they say solve the triangle, that finds all the missing parts. Now, on the quiz, if I ask you to solve the triangle, so this could be like number 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So it's not just going to, you're not going to have to find 3 things for just one problem. All right? So like finding, like number 2 would be find Q. Number 3 would be finding angle P. And number 4 would be finding angle O. Everybody understand that? So each one of these is going to be its own problem, all right? Its own question. Everybody got that? Okay. So let's do it. What do you think the first thing that you would rather find here? I got one that I would like to do first. I'd do Q. All right, so what can we use? We haven't done this yet today, but what could we use to solve for Q? Pythagorean theorem, that's right. This is the hypotenuse, so I'm going to put Q squared equals my 2 legs, 26 squared plus 42 squared. It's Pythagorean theorem. We've done that for a little while now. Let's get rid of this squared. How do we do that? We square root that side. That'll get rid of that. And we got to square root this side. So here's how I would do this on the calculator. I would hit a square root. So there's my square root. And then I'm going to put 26 squared plus 42 squared, close my parentheses, and then hit enter, and I get 49 point, rounding it to the nearest tenth again. What's that going to round to? 0.39. 0.4, that's right. That 9 rounds that 3 up to a 4, so it's 49.4. 49.4. It's not degrees. Why not? Just finding the length of a side. That's right. We're finding the side, so it's not angles. This is not an angle. It's just a degree. So that's one of my things right there. So that's one of my answers. I'll put it right there. Now I got to solve for angle O and angle P. Really doesn't make any difference which one you use. Let's solve for angle P first. Is that all right? Doesn't make any difference. Now, how do I know which trig function am I going to use? Now remember, this Q, it's not exactly 49.4, right? It's an approximation, isn't it? So I would rather not use this. Okay, you could still use it, and it would still give you the right answer. But I like to use the numbers that they give us originally. So they gave us 26, they gave us 42. So how do I find angle P? Which trig function am I going to use? What's 26 to angle P? Opposite, right. What's the 42 to angle P? Not 42 is not opposite. Look, here's angle P. Look, opposite is across from it. It's 26. That's opposite. This is adjacent. This is next to it. See how it attaches to the angle? This doesn't attach to the angle, does it? Well, it connects the two ends, I guess, if you want to call it that. But anyway, this is opposite, this is adjacent. So which trig function am I going to use when I have opposite and adjacent? Go through the SOHCAHTOA. So what is the OA? Which one's that? That's the TOA, or the tangent. So that's the trig function I'm going to use to solve for that angle. All right, that's, to me, that's the hardest part of doing this whole quiz, is just understanding which trig function we're going to use. But then, if you think about it, it may not be that hard after all, because all I got to do is see that that's opposite and that's adjacent. And so I go, oh, opposite, adjacent, tangent, so now I do it. So the tangent of what? The angle. Which angle am I dealing with? It's angle P. So it's the tangent of angle P is equal to opposite, which is 26, over the adjacent, which is 42. I got one more step before I use the calculator. I got to get P by itself. I got to get rid of that tangent. How do I get rid, when I was reading off the answers right at the beginning, we talked about this. How do I get rid of the tangent? Take the what of the tangent. Take the inverse of the tangent. So this is how we would write it. So if I take the inverse of this tangent, that'll cancel it out. I left with a P. But I also got to take the inverse tangent of the other side. All right, we did that quite a bit on Friday. It seems like you guys are catching on pretty quick on that on Friday. So make sure you go back to that and watch that one if you need to. So now I'm ready to put that in my calculator. So what am I going to do? Second function, tangent. See, there's the inverse tangent. And then how do I put this in there? 26 what? Divided by 42. Okay, and I hit enter. And 31.75, what does that 5 do to that 7? 31.8, right. So that would be 31.8. This is an angle, isn't it? I'm solving for an angle. So this is 31.8 what? Degrees. So that's angle P right there, 31.8. That was the only trig you had to do with this problem. Because how can I solve for angle O? If I know this angle is 31.8, how could I find this right here? From 90, right, we did that earlier, didn't we? So all I got to do is just go 90 minus 31.8, and that's going to give me angle O. So angle O equals, what's that? Should be able to do that. 58.2? 58.2. And it's an angle, so it's degrees. And there you go. And there's all three of them. Pretty simple, wouldn't you agree? Yeah. I mean, doing the tangent thing was a little complicated because you had to take the inverse tangent of it. But there you go. All right. Did you take good notes on that? I hope. Maybe you got it right in the first place. Anybody get it right the first time when they did it for their homework? Okay, good. Oh yeah, you got to make sure you put it in degrees. Remember that? If you have a calculator like this, go to mode, make sure that degree right here is highlighted. Okay? Make sure it's in degrees because you could put it in radians. Even people with a little scientific calculator, like up at the top, I don't have an online version of one of those, but make sure, oops, I keep hitting that. Make sure that you hit degrees. I think on my scientific calculator, you'll see it, like up at the top somewhere, a little small, and it'll say DEG. Make sure your calculator is in degrees. It does. Now, once you set it to degrees, if you turn it off and then come back later and turn it back on again, it's probably still going to be in degrees. With this online calculator right here, I always have to set it to degrees every time. Now, this is what you don't want. It's called radians. We're not even going to talk about what a radian is, but just make sure that it's not set on radians. Make sure it's set on degrees. Everybody good with that? All right, let's find another problem to do. Let's find one where they give you one angle and one side. Do you see one where they give you one angle and one side? like 17. 17, they give you one angle on one side, don't they? And this is one that we did not do in the other class. This is one we did not do in the other class, so that'd be good to do it here. But if you want to watch, okay, again, feel free to watch the other class, because I did use, it seems like I'm using different problems in this class than I did the other class. So if you want a double review, watch the other one. So 17 looks like you got an angle on a side, right? So they give you this as 3. They say this angle is 68 degrees. This is B. This is C. This is angle A. This is angle C. This is angle B. All right, here we go. Everybody ready? There's one thing you can find super easy. This is kind of like what we did earlier, I think. But let's do it again. It's always good to redo some of these. What's the one thing you can find very easily? Angle A. Yeah, let's find angle A. So how do I find angle A? This one up here. Well, 90 minus 68. That's it. 90 minus 68. What's that? 22? Angle A is 22 degrees. Okay. Let's find B and C. Let's go B first. All right. So let's solve for B. What are we going to use? What trig function are we going to use? Well, let's see what they give us and what you want to find. You want to find B. What did they give us? Side 3. Well, they give us 68. That's what we're using. But what sides did they give you? 3. And you want to find B, right? So those are the two sides you're going to use. So what is B to that 68? It's opposite. What is the 3 to that 68? It's next to, what word is that? It's adjacent, right. So I got opposite, and I've got adjacent. We've done this once already. What's that? That's the TOA, which is the tangent. So it's the tangent of the angle that we're dealing with. What angle are we dealing with? The 68. Okay, right? Because this is opposite the 68. This is adjacent to the 68. So we take the tangent of what? 68 equals what over what? Opposite over adjacent. The math is easy again. Just multiply both sides by 3. Everybody see that? And this is what you're going to put into the calculator. You're just going to put in 3 tangent of 68. And 7.42. What does the 2 do to the 4? Keeps it the same, so it's 7.4. Again, it's approximately 7.4. This is the actual number. But remember, this isn't even the actual number, to tell you the truth. Why not? Because that decimal keeps on going. All right? It doesn't repeat, but it just keeps on going. All right? So this is approximately 7.4. So I'm not going to do Pythagorean theorem to solve this, because this is an approximation. I want to stick with the numbers they gave us. So now let's stick with the 3, and then let's use the C. So what is 3 to the 68? We already said that earlier. That's adjacent. What is the C? It's the hypotenuse, okay? So which trig function uses adjacent and hypotenuse? It's the cosine, right? It's the cos. So ca toa, right? So it's the cosine. Cosine of what? 68 degrees. Now, instead of opposite over adjacent, it's what? It's adjacent over hypotenuse. Which one's adjacent? 3. Which one's hypotenuse? C. Remember I talked a couple times about this is the, remember I said earlier that this was the easy algebra? This was one that's a little bit more complicated. It's only one step more complicated, but it's a little bit more complicated. Because why? Why is this more complicated than solving for B? C's on the bottom, that's right. B was on the top, which made it kind of easy. This you got to do two things. You got to multiply both sides by C. Multiply that by C. The C's cancel. What do I have here now? I got C times the cosine of 68. How do I get rid of the cosine of 68? Divide, because it's just a number. The cosine of 68, if I put it into a calculator, it's just some decimal number, okay? So it's a number, so I can divide by it. Divide by the cosine of 68. So I come over here and do what? Divide this by the cosine of 68. So it's a little bit more complicated. It's one extra step. Had to put that C on the top. Then I had to divide by the cosine of 68. 2 steps. That cancels. C equals, what's this going to be? It's kind of messy right now with all that stuff canceled out, but it's what? It's 3 divided by the cosine. Let's just write it out. 3 divided by the cosine of 68. Agree? All right, that's what we're putting into the calculator. So let's do it. Let's put 3 divided by the cosine of 68. Hit enter. There it is. 8.00. What does that second 0 do to that first 0? Well, it doesn't cancel. It just doesn't round it up. So what's my rounded answers? 8 point what? 0.0. All right? Everybody with me on that? Because if I just put 8 and you said rounded it, that could have been an 8.4, right? 8.4 would round to an 8. Would you agree? Yes? All right. But this shows me specifically that it's not 8.1. It's not 8.2, 0.3, 0.4. It's an 8.0. All right. So it's a lot more specific than just putting an 8 down. So that's your answer, 8.0. We found them all, didn't we? We found B, we found C, and then we found this angle up here, didn't we? Where was that? Right there. Angle A, which is 22 degrees. And you just solve for the triangle. All right, I'll give you one more. Actually, I'll give you 2 more. This one, I don't give you a triangle. I don't give you a picture of a triangle. All the other ones, I gave you a picture of the triangle, and I told you, right, I put in an angle for that. I put in a side for that. Everybody with me on that? Okay, so everything on the quiz, I drew the triangle for you, and I put in all the values. This is the one. This is numbers 8, 9, and 10 on the quiz. All right, so on the quiz, it's numbers 8, 9, and 10. I don't draw a picture for you. So, for instance, I would tell you, what do I give you? I give you 2 sides. So let's find one where I give you 2 sides. Like let's do number 25. I did this one in the other class, but that's okay. All right, forget what they are already. A is 33, B is 17. All right, so I say A is 33 and B is 17. Is that the angles, or what am I telling you right there? These are the lengths of the what? Of the sides, because they're lowercase, all right? Lowercase means they're the sides. I don't say anything about C. I will tell you this, a huge hint. C is always going to be my hypotenuse, okay? So what I would do if I were you is I would draw the thing out. It's way easier to see the triangle. Even though I don't give you the triangle on the quiz, this is what you should be doing yourself. You should be drawing the triangle. It doesn't matter if your sides are to scale or anything. Just make sure it's a right triangle. What did I say was always going to be the C? The hypotenuse. So, of course, this is angle C. And it doesn't matter which one you call the A and B. Let's call that the A. Let's call that one the B. Is that all right? So what is this angle down here at the bottom right? If I said this is side A, which angle is this? This is angle A because it's opposite side A. If this is side B, what angle am I going to call this up here? Angle B, because it's opposite side B. So that's what you should draw. You should do that on your own, okay? The rest of the problems on the quiz, they did this for you. On these 3 problems, you need to draw that out yourself. Again, understanding that C is the hypotenuse. We good? Now, it's kind of just like what we've done before, all right? It's not a whole lot different. So let's do it. Let's solve for C first. We've done this once already today. How do I get C by itself, or how do I solve for C? Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to go C squared equals 33 squared plus 17 squared. Get rid of the squared by taking the square root, do it to the other side, and you put that in the calculator. Let's put it in the calculator. We'll clear that. So I'm going to hit a big square root. Okay, there's a square root. Then I put 33 squared plus 17 squared. Close out the parentheses right there. Hit enter. There it is, 37.12. What does that 2 do? Nothing, right? So it's just 37 what? 0.1. All right, so that's what C is. Super easy. Agree? Pythagorean theorem should be easy now for you, right? We've done it so many times. I hope it is. All right, let's solve for angle A. You could solve for angle B first if you wanted to. Doesn't make any difference. I just decided to solve for A. So let's take a look at the two sides that they give you. They give you 33 and they give you 17. What is 33 to this angle A? It's opposite. What is 17 to this angle A? It's adjacent. So it's opposite and adjacent. We've done this a couple times already. What uses opposite and adjacent? The tangent. So I'm going to go the tangent of what? What angle was I dealing with? Angle A. So I'm going to go the tangent of angle A is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. The opposite is 33. The adjacent is 17. We did this part once before. We're going to do it again. How do I get A by itself? I take the inverse tangent. I got to get rid of that tangent, correct? How do I get rid of it? I don't divide by a tangent. That doesn't make any sense. Tangent's not a number, but I can take the inverse of it. So if I take the inverse of this tangent, it'll cancel it out, and I'm left with A. But then I got to take the inverse tangent of the other side. How do I show inverse tangent? I take it to the negative first. That's how I show inverse tangent. So I take the inverse tangent of the other side. You getting the hang of this part? This part might be some of the trickier parts of this stuff. But once we did it a lot Friday. We've done it, this is like at least our second time today doing this. So it shouldn't be that hard. So now what are we going to do? Hit second function tangent, right? So second function tangent. There you go. See the inverse tangent of 33 divided by 17. Close the parentheses, hit enter, boom, there it is. 62.74. That 4 does not round the 7 up, so angle A is 62.7. This is an angle, right? We're solving for an angle, so this must be in degrees. That's what we do, right? Second function. You hit second, that yellow one. See behind it? You see that tan to the negative first? So that's how you get those to work. You hit second function, then tangent. Now, what if you're using just a scientific calculator? Okay. Now, here's what you would do. This is okay. If you have a calculator, I'll show you mine. I mean, this is from my phone, but some of you guys might have a calculator that looks more like this. Okay, everybody see that? You just got one line of text across the top right there. So if you have one like this, this is how you put it in. And you should be practicing. You should be practicing how to do this. I do this first. I don't hit tangent to the negative first, okay? I hit 33 over 17, and then I hit equals. I can't do it on this calculator because it doesn't work. 33 over 17, I hit equals, then I hit what? Second function tangent, and then it'll give me that answer, 62.7. You must know how yours works, okay? Let me show you one more thing. Yes, you will. Let me get rid of this thing that I marked out here. And let's get rid of all this. Actually, let's do this. I could give you something like this, and let's not do that. Watch. I'm going to go through this real quick. I did this in the other class. It's at the end. Hang on just a second. This is number 1 on the quiz. Okay, completely skip number 1. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do, if that's A and that's B. I'm going to say, find the sine of angle A, the cosine of angle A, and the tangent of angle A. You're not actually solving for the angle. All you're doing is putting the fraction in there. That's all you're doing. So what's the sine of A? It's the what over the what? Opposite over hypotenuse. So what's that going to be? 5 over 13. What about the cosine? What's that? It's cos, C-A-H. It's adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's 12 over 13. What's the tangent? Opposite over adjacent, TOA. So its opposite is 5 over the adjacent, which is 12. That, see those right there? That would be your answer for something like number 1. You don't actually have to solve for the angle itself. Just give me the sine, cosine, and tangent of those. Put your homeworks right there on that chair. And then you got 2 videos that you have potential of looking at, okay? So make sure that you watch both of them and be ready for this quiz.